Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I know he deserved it, but this recurring Yellowstone trope always made me feel sorry for Kevin Costner's John Dutton. It's his own fault, but a recurring event in Yellowstone always made me feel sad for Kevin Costner's John Dutton i.e. There are many leaders in Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone universe, which includes 1883 and 1923. But John Dutton was the first member of the Dutton family tree to helm one of the screenwriter's shows. John and his family, including his daughter Beth, Kelly Riley, and son Case, Luke Grimes, therefore set the tone for the Yellowstone franchise. While John and his kin face unpleasant realities as they protect the largest contiguous ranch in the United States, some are self-inflicted. The destruction and shocking deaths John Dutton's family faces in Yellowstone rob them of simpler times, and the challenges translate to bleak circumstances at home. That said, it was difficult for John's brood, including Jamie Dutton, Wes Bentley, to live normal lives that weren't affected by their father's fight to maintain the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. Taylor Sheridan reminds audiences of what the family endured with a recurring trope in Yellowstone. Yet Yellowstone's saddest circumstances are self-inflicted by John Dutton, who wasn't always the best parent to his children, affecting the whole clan later in life. Contrary to Jacob Dutton's Harrison Ford family in 1923, John Dutton i.e.'s family in Yellowstone fractured over time while fighting for the ranch and enduring difficult life circumstances. This led to unrest when it came time to sit down and enjoy a meal together. Therefore, John Dutton never had a peaceful meal around the table in Yellowstone. Beth caused more chaos than anyone under John's roof, she always picking a fight or fixating on something unhelpful. Still, Beth experienced a lot of traumatic moments growing up, which explains why she revolted against the idea of a happy family dinner, even as an adult. However, there are other reasons why John's family dinners fell apart. It was difficult for Case's wife, Monica, Kelsey Asbill, to enjoy a meal at the Dutton dinner table, since living at the ranch caused her family strife, like when their son, Tate, Brecken Merrill, was abducted. For Beth, even the idea of the dinner table was a controversial subject, which she believed represented a happy family that didn't exist. The Duttons' inability to gather for dinner plagued John, who would sit in misery among the empty seats. Despite it upsetting him, John Dutton was a big reason why his family couldn't have a peaceful meal. While he wasn't directly related to the conflicts that Beth endured, like her mother's death and her unwanted hysterectomy, John's dedication to the ranch took precedence over his family's personal desires. Moreover, Beth felt like she couldn't go to her father about her unplanned pregnancy, which is why she resorted to young Jamie's help. Later in life, John's parenting improves, and he apologizes to Beth that she didn't feel safe confiding in him, producing one of John Dutton's best quotes from Yellowstone. John is also the reason Monica doesn't feel at home at the Dutton Ranch. After Case and Monica got pregnant, John Dutton punished Case with the Yellowstone Ranch brand, scaring his son for life. John's boys, Case, Jamie, and Lee, Dave Annable, remark that John told them all to leave the ranch at one time in Yellowstone series premiere, further suggesting John was an unforgiving father. Whether it was deserved or not, Yellowstone Season 4 gives John a silver lining with Rip Kohlhauser, Carter, Finn Little, and Beth breaking the cycle, dining at a smaller table and enjoying a peaceful meal. There's something almost Shakespearean about John Dutton. The rugged patriarch of Yellowstone, played with quiet steel by Kevin Costner, walks through the Montana dust like a modern-day King Lear, grappling with legacy, loyalty, and the slow decay of everything he once held sacred. And while I've often found myself agreeing that John Dutton does deserve many of the consequences he faces, whether it's the bloodshed he condones, the questionable business deals, or the emotional damage he inflicts on his children, there's one recurring trope in the series that always pulls at me, always makes me pause and think, why does everyone leave him? Seriously, watch closely and you'll see a pattern, one so emotionally raw that it's become its own kind of tragedy. Everyone John Dutton loves or trusts eventually betrays, abandons, or distances themselves from him. It happens again and again, a kind of haunting echo in the hills of Yellowstone Ranch. And while it may be the cost of power, it's still a heavy price, and one that makes me, against my better judgment, feel sorry for the man. Let's start with the most glaring example, his children. John Dutton has 3 surviving kids, and each one is a different flavor of emotionally fractured, largely due to their upbringing under his stern, often cold hand. Case, the youngest, literally left the ranch and the family when he married Monica. It was only after tragedy and obligation dragged him back that he found himself once again bound to the Dutton legacy. But even then, there's a distance between father and son, a resentment that never quite goes away. Case is haunted by the morality of his father's choices. He sees John's empire as built on bones and silence, and that never sits well with him. Then there's Jamie, the adopted son who's never fully accepted, who lives in a constant state of yearning for approval he'll never get. Every moment between Jamie and John is tinged with bitterness, like a wound that refuses to close. And while Jamie's betrayals are jaw-dropping, legally declaring war on his own father, secretly aligning with political enemies, there's always that lingering sense that he was driven to this by years of coldness and manipulation. Still, the heartbreak on John's face when he learns of Jamie's latest betrayal is gutting. Deserved? Yes, but still tragic. Even Beth, the fiercely loyal daughter who had set the world on fire for her father, carries a brokenness that originated with him. She's a weapon he forged, and sometimes even he's surprised by how ruthlessly she wields it. Their relationship is laced with both devotion and trauma. When Beth opens up about her sterilization, something John played a passive role in by not fully understanding her pain, you can see the cracks in their armor. Even the strongest bond in the family is built on wounds. And it's not just his family. Loyal ranch hands, political allies, even old friends. They come and go, often leaving John more isolated than before. Rip is probably the only person who stays truly loyal. But even that loyalty is steeped in unspoken debts and power dynamics. And let's not forget the number of Dutton allies who end up buried in the dirt, victims of their loyalty or of being pawns in John's endless chess game. This is the recurring Yellowstone trope that gets me. The cost of the crown is loneliness. John Dutton is king of his mountain, sure, but his throne is cold, and he's often the only one sitting on it. The show frames him as a man who fights for legacy at all costs. But what happens when that legacy costs you every relationship you've ever cared about? It's not hard to argue that he brought it on himself. John Dutton rules with an iron fist, playing God with other people's lives and land. He makes choices that are often morally bankrupt, justifying them in the name of tradition or family. He pushes people away because power requires distance. He manipulates, intimidates, and sometimes outright destroys anyone who poses a threat. So yeah, he deserves the isolation, but that doesn't mean it isn't sad to watch. What really hits me is how he often seems surprised by the abandonment, as if he never quite believed it would happen again. When Jamie betrays him again, you can see the hurt, buried beneath the stoicism. When Case refuses to fall in line, there's that flicker of disappointment. When Beth spirals into violence, it's almost like he wants to reach out, but doesn't know how. He's a man who's mastered the art of control, but never quite figured out how to connect. And in that, there's a certain heartbreaking irony. I think part of what makes this trope so effective and painful is Costner's performance. He plays John with a quiet sorrow that simmers beneath every hard decision. He rarely speaks of his emotions, but you can see them written in his eyes during those long, silent stares at the land.